Hello everyone, today we have another exciting video where we're looking at an EV charging. Oh my god, we're gonna look at the charging session that I filmed off Ionity, we're gonna look at the charging curve, and then we're gonna compare it to other cars. And who's the contender for today? It is the, drumroll, the Volkswagen ID.4 Pro, the new car 2024. Is the new, with the new software, ID software 4.0, is the charging curve any different than it was with 3.1? We're gonna look at the session, compare it to an ID.5 that I charged with ID software 3.1, and then we're gonna compare it to other ID cars like the ID Bus, ID.3, and of course my ID.7. This video is supported by Maingau Autostrom. With Maingau, you can charge at over 550,000 charging stalls all over Europe for a fair price. Check them out in the link in the description below. First, let's look at the time-lapse that I filmed off Ionity, where I charged the ID.4 Pro from, I think, 4% to 90%. So, it's starting to... Here we go, 4%, like I said, it goes up to 131 kilowatt and it stays at that number, and then slowly it goes up. We are at 358 volt, that's a low voltage at 10%. We have 138 kilowatt, it goes up. Now we're going up. Now this is a weird behavior that I've seen on this charging session, the up and down movement. The peak that we get is 142 kilowatt. But where was it? Was it already done? I think it was already done. It was already that number. Oh, is it going up? Yeah, now it's still going up. It's fine. But the peak is 142, but it will stay above 100 kilowatt for a very long time. And this behavior right now, I think this was either the whole power grid or it was this charger, because I haven't seen that on a Volkswagen before where it does a little movement around 5-10 kilowatt like now. That's weird, haven't seen that before. Voltage slowly goes down. The amps are around 365 amp. That's not that high on my ID.7, for example. I get 500 amps, that's why I also get higher peak. But at 44%, we already had charged 33 kilowatt hours. We're still at 125 kilowatt. This was where the old ID.4 had its peak. And we have this peak at 50%. So this is awesome. They improved the charging curve with 3.0 very well. Still above that. And now again, that weird movement. Like I said, so I don't know what number we are. It goes up and down 120 something to 130 something. But this for a while at 60%, we're still above 120 kilowatt. Now I think it's a bit lower. Yeah, 119, 118. Amp goes down under 300 amp. With 65%, we have in 25 minutes we have charged 53 kilowatt hours. From 10 to 80% is 28 minutes. If you start at 4%, if you start at 10%, it will be a bit longer because it has to ramp up in the beginning. That's normal. By the way, I preheated the battery before this test. It was at optimum temperature, so it was perfect. And even though it would have been a bit cold, it was a warm day, and I mean, it wasn't too warm, had a check-in on, forget that. Now at 80% after 31 minutes, so 4 to 80% was 31 minutes. Like I said, 10 to 80, 28, and 65 kilowatt hours charged in 33 minutes. We are now at 54%, under 100% was at 74% as far as I remember. So that's a very high state of charge to still have 100 kilowatt. That's amazing. And I charged here to 90%, and soon we're gonna be at 31 kilowatt. This one will stay for a very long time. It stayed here till the 90%, and I think it's going a bit over 93, 94%, something like this. But I haven't charged that long. And after 40 minutes, we have charged 70 kilowatt hours. And 89%, and we're almost done. Come on. There we are. In 42 minutes we charged 71.279 kilowatt hours. Now we have the charging curve here. I put the numbers in, and it's the charging power in kilowatt to the state of charge in percent. So at what state of charge you have what power charging into your battery. As you can see, we have in the beginning the 130, and then it goes up, and the peak is around here, 141, and then but we still have little jumps that are unusual, and the tiny little jumps that you have seen in the video, I haven't put those in. I just see every minute what is the charging power and write that down. Then from here on it goes down to at around 42%, we are at 125 kilowatt, and then here we have the next jump down around 60% down to 67, and then from 70 it then continuously go down, and like I said, 75% is where it goes under 100 kilowatt, and then down here at 87% it stays at 31 kilowatt. But now the important part, has the charging curve changed with Id.4 4.0 and the new hardware and everything, the new cars that come out this year 2024? Well, they have come out in January or something, or big delivery has started. And here we have the charging curve of the new ID.4 with 4.0 in red and an ID.5 with 3.1 in blue that I filmed a few years ago, 2 years ago or so. And as you can see, it's basically the same. You see that the characteristics are the same. The changes only have to do with the temperature of the battery, outside temperature, and the charger and stuff like this. Both were charged at Ionity, but different chargers of course. But as you can see, it's basically the same. There is no difference. This little hump here in the back, who knows, maybe the battery was hot in the ID.5 and needed cooling, and so, and here the peak was at 142 kilowatt at 13%, but then here we're underneath, and they changed their, it's so close, it's for sure the exact same charging curve. There is no difference. But now an important comparison, and it's ID.4 to ID.4, but Pro against GTX or 4Motion, which have a different charging curve because the battery has different chemistry. And as you can see, ID.4 here in red and the GTX in blue. The GTX has a higher peak, goes up to 177 kilowatt, where the ID.4 Pro only goes up here to 141. But then at around 32%, the Pro stays above and the GTX goes down. So it's all about how far are you charging. Are you charging to 80%? Then the Pro is better for charging. Are you charging to 50% or 40 even? Then the GTX is the better thing. If you start at a low state of charge, of course. If you start at 30%, then again the Pro is better. So if you have a bit higher consumption on your long distance drive, and you have to charge to higher state of charges, I just did it, said it twice, then the Pro is better for the long distance. If you don't need so much range and go on, then the GTX is better. And now we have the big thing here. I'm comparing here ID.7 to ID.4 Pro, ID.3 Pro, so not the Pro S, because the Pro S is the same charging curve as the ID.4, ID.5 GTX, which is also in here, and the ID Bus. They're all in here. By the way, all Volkswagen ID models, I say it with every charging thing that I'm showing here from Volkswagen, it's important you only get this charging curve, of course, when the battery is warm, but this is with every EV. But more important, you have to plug in under 15%. When you plug in at 20%, you don't get the same charging power at the 20% if you would have plugged in at 10% and then you are at 20%. It won't be that high. The charging curve doesn't just move. It's completely different when you plug in at 20%. So I always recommend drive down to 15-10%, plug in, and you get a great charging curve if the battery is warm. And now with Id.4 4.0, where you can preheat manually, or you navigate to a charger and it will preheat it automatically to the best charging temperature, which by the way is 25 degrees in the battery, then it just works really well. So here we have in yellow here the very tiny little curve here is the Volkswagen ID.3 Pro. That's Walter, my old ID.3, and here I have the 2.4 update already on, because in the beginning it only charged with a peak of 100 kilowatts, so it would have been down here, but with 2.4 I had 133 kilowatt, which stays till 32%. Then we are at under 100 kilowatt. The red one is our Id.4 Pro we just did, and as you can see, in the beginning it's not very good. All the others are better, but then it stays above all of them except for, in blue, the ID.7. The violet one is the GTX that we just did the comparison, and the ID bus is the green one here, which also has a nice peak of 168 kilowatt, but then goes down pretty fast. But then in the here in the end is pretty okay. And you can, as you can see, the ID.7 stays above all of them till around here, 58%, and then they meet up with the Id.4 Pro at 79% again, at 75 kilowatts. So only in this area the Id.4 Pro is a bit better than all of the others, but ID.7 is better to up to 58%. And since the ID.7 has better consumption than the others, I tested the ID.7 against the Id.4, and it was 17% less consumption. But also the Id.4 had 21-inch wheels and my ID.7 is 19-inch wheels, so let's say 12%. Still a lot. And but as you can see, ID.7 rules. ID bus is okay to around here 24%. But the Id.4 Pro, again, if you charge to 80%, is pretty great charging curve. GTX and bus is okay. Bus is a bit better than the GTX, I would say, but it also needs it. Very high consumption, and like I said before, ID.7 just has both low consumption and great charging to 58%, where it's just the master of those Volkswagen ID cars. And the last are the kilowatt hours that are being charged into the battery. Again, I have the 4 cars here, and as you can see right away in yellow, the ID.3 is the total loser again. Not a lot of kilowatt hours get into the battery over time. The Id.4 is in the beginning a bit weak, but then at around 15-16 minutes it is above most of the others. ID bus is great, just underneath the Id.4, what I just said. The GTX is okay, but the winner here, and you can see it pretty well, ID.7 charges amazing kilowatt hours into the battery up here at 30 after 30 minutes. This is the time where it has the same kilowatt hours charged in the Id.4, and when you think from 10 to 80%, the ID.7 takes 26 minutes, and these are 30 minutes. So let's say you started at 5%, so 2 minutes more. That still means you are at above 80%, so 83, 85%, something like this. This is a very high state of charge for the long distance trip. Most likely you won't charge that far. So ID.7 charges more kilowatt hours into the battery, has lower consumption, and can go on way faster. I'm totally making advertising for my Hank. He's amazing. If you want to follow me on Instagram, BatteryLife1, and if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon link in the description below, and here on YouTube there's also channel membership. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.